What is a legend? It's been defined as a semi-true story which has been passed on from person to person and has important meaning or symbolism for the culture in which it originates. A legend usually has some sort of element of truth or is based on historical facts, but with mythical qualities. On our first mini-sode special, Hollyweird Paranormal goes beyond California as you follow me into my home state of Louisiana as I brave the night at MYRTLES Plantation and we go beyond the legend and the lores. So Bryce, start us off with these crazy legends and lores of MYRTLES Plantation. Le bon temps roulé.
The MYRTLES Plantation has borne silent witness to more than 200 years of the history of the deepest part of the Deep South. Named after the crepe myrtles that seem to shadow the property in perpetual twilight, the plantation has seen its share of sorrow in that time. The house was originally built by Revolutionary War General David Bradford. I can't help it. I'm going to try, but I'm going to say all their names in a southern accent. Bear with me. General David Bradford in 1796. Fleeing justice for his role in the Whiskey Rebellion, Bradford built the house in what was then a Spanish colony. He lived there alone for several years until he was officially pardoned by President Adams. He then brought his family to live on his new plantation. After Bradford's death, the plantation passed to his daughter and her husband, Clark Woodruff. But their life there was not a happy one. Of their 3 young children, only one survived to adulthood. It was during this time that the Woodruffs lived on the plantation that the most famous ghost story associated with the MYRTLES Plantation was supposed to have happened. According to the legend, Clark Woodruff was known as an honest man, but one with an active sex drive, which aren't they all? And it wasn't long before he focused his attention on one of the slave girls on the plantation. No, my little heart. The young girl, Chloe, knew that if she refused Woodruff's advances, she would be sent to work in the cotton fields. There she would have to work long hours under the blistering sun and the brutal overseers who were armed with whips. 12 years a slave. It's horrible. Chloe, of course, really had little choice in the matter and knew that she and Woodruff began a sexual relationship that lasted for several years. Chloe, who was worried that Woodruff's wife would find out and punish her, began eavesdropping on the family's conversations. One day, Woodruff caught her listening and ordered her ear cut off as a punishment. From then on, Chloe was forced to wear a turban to cover her disfigured ear. Understandably, Chloe wanted revenge. Yes, girl. One night, when the family was about to sit down for dinner and Woodruff was away, Chloe slipped a bit of poison into their food. Within days, Woodruff's wife and 2 of his children were dead. The other slaves, afraid that Woodruff would find out what Chloe had done when he returned, took the matter into their own hands. They grabbed Chloe and hung her from a nearby tree. When she finally died, they cut her body down and threw it into the river, but according to legend, her spirit lived on. The plantation passed on after Woodruff's death into a few different hands. Finally, in the 1970s, it was purchased by the Myers family, who decided to open it as a bed and breakfast. But from almost the first day, strange things allegedly began happening. Guests have reported hearing strange noises, others saw ghostly apparitions, often a young girl wearing a turban. Many suggested that this might be the spirit of Chloe, and in 1992, the owner of the property claimed to have caught her on film. That year, the owner took a photo of the property to help get an insurance policy for the house. The photo was quickly forgotten until 3 years later when a researcher asked to use it for a postcard. After blowing it up, he caught the image of what appeared to be a young girl hidden by the shadows on the property. So, you should sleep with lights on and a crucifix, girl. Okay, have fun. Bye.
Yeah, not nervous. No pressure. No pressure at all. But congratulations, girl. You managed to survive 3 minutes and 45 seconds of sharing the haunted mysteries and lore and legends that surround MYRTLES Plantation. your girl's got to survive a night. Good thing I found out that there is a bar at Myrtles Plantation. So I have my bags packed, guys. I'm just waiting for my ride. My girl Catherine's about to come in and pick me up before we head to St. Francisville, Louisiana. We have, I think, about an hour and 20 minutes of commute ahead of us. But don't think that I didn't do my homework before heading to such a haunted property. If you're a good ghost hunter, paranormal investigator, or paranerd enthusiast, you know to do your homework and your research before setting foot on such a haunted property. So I do have some receipts, guys, and they're completely opposite of all the legends and lores that we just learned about. Now, like I mentioned too earlier, what is a legend? A legend is a semi-true story with mythical qualities. And we're going to learn that there are a lot of holes in these legends and lores. So before we get to this whole story of Chloe's existence, we should also examine first the murders, finger quotes, of Sarah Matilda and her 2 daughters. And in this case, that legend has twisted the truth so far that it is completely unrecognizable. You see, Sarah Matilda was not murdered. She died tragically from yellow fever, according to historical records that you can find at St. Feliciana Parish and St. Francisville, Louisiana. It turned out that she died in 1823. Her children, a son and a daughter, not 2 daughters, died more than a year after she did from yellow fever. She also had another child by the name of Octavia that survived. Now, they certainly did not die from a result of a poisoned birthday cake. Also, with this legend, Octavia would not have existed at all. Her mother was supposed to have been pregnant with her when murdered. But we know that she lived with her father, got married, and lived to the ripe old age of 80. In addition to this, there are some legends too that mention that Woodruff was killed. But it turned out that he wasn't killed. He died peacefully at his daughter and son-in-law's plantation in 1851. Now, in order to learn more about the history that circulated around Louisiana in regards to yellow fever, you got to do some more research on what was going on during that time. Now, according to KnowLouisiana.org, yellow fever is a mosquito-borne viral disease, and the disease occurs in tropical and subtropical areas, which is why it spread so rapidly throughout the Gulf Coast regions. It spread throughout Texas, Georgia, Louisiana, Florida, and even Mississippi. There are claims that the disease was transported along with the slaves and the slave ships that were coming from Africa. Now, in the summer of 1853, generally considered the worst year of the epidemic, 29,120 people contracted the disease and 8,600 of them died from it. On a single day in August, close to 230 deaths were reported. Newspapers and citizens refer to it as the Black Day. In August of that year, an average of 1,300 people died each week. Now we can approach the whole legend of Chloe. Who is Chloe? The key to the legend is, of course, Chloe herself, the murderous slave. The problem with this is that, as far as we can tell, Chloe never existed at all. Not only did she not murder the members of the Woodruff family, but it's unlikely that the family ever had a slave by that name. And how do we know this? Well, according to David Weishart, who is the key researcher of AmericanHauntingsInc.com, he spent countless hours and days looking through the property records, birth certificates, and other public records of the Woodruff family, which are still available and on file as public record in St. Francisville. He was searching for any evidence that Chloe existed, and it was a great disappointment to learn that the Woodruffs had never owned a slave or had any record of a slave by the name of Chloe, Cleo, Clarissa, as she appears in some of the versions of the story. And that's the thing. There was no really clear account of her name being Cleo or Chloe. The records list all of the other slaves that were owned by the Woodruff family, but Chloe simply did not exist. Well, what about the murders that occurred on the property? And based on legends, there were about a total of 10 murders that occurred on that property, but public records and a newspaper article confirmed there was only one. William Winters was murdered on the property, but William Winters did not die in the middle of the night on the 17th step of the staircase. That is all pure lore. According to the January 1871 issue of the Point Coupee Democrat newspaper, Winter was actually teaching a Sunday school lesson in the afternoon in the gentleman's parlor of the house when he heard someone approach the house on horseback. After the stranger called out to him, saying that he had some business with him, Winter went out onto the side of the gallery of the house and was shot fatally. As far as it's known, Winter's killer remains unidentified and unpunished. They never caught him. Now, there is another story about 3 Union soldiers being killed inside the house. And as a result of their killing, there was this huge pool of blood, this blood stain that ended up on the wooden floor that people to this day could not get out of that floor. And this is also found inconclusive based on Weishart's research. There is no documentation of 3 Union soldiers being killed on the Woodruff's property. But it actually turns out that there was a battle, and it was known as the Battle of Port Hudson, that took place just 12 miles south of St. Francisville during 1863. Union forces also shelled the town itself. On June 12th of 1863, however, St. Francisville became the location of an unusual event still commemorated this very day, the day the war stopped. An estimated 10,000 Union soldiers were killed, wounded, or died from illness at Port Hudson. The Confederates lost 750, nearly half of whom died from sickness. Yes, the Woodruff family had their house ransacked by Union soldiers. Actually, a lot of families that lived in plantations in and around the area suffered the same fate as well. Now, this can lead us into the evolution of the legend of Chloe. How did it all come about? And why did the story just evolved into the story of this murderous slave? Well, it all started in 1950 with Marjorie Munson and her family when they moved onto the property. Marjorie Munson was seeing what looked like a vision of a woman that would appear in the front of the gates in the front of the house. She was in period wear and did wear a green bonnet or turban. The woman would appear in front of Marjorie and disappear. Soon Marjorie started to share her stories with her friends and her family. Then soon after, their property was sold to another family in 1970. The family started to experience some strange happenings and occurrences in and around the location, and soon the legend of Chloe, the murderous slave, was born. A slave who murdered Sarah Matilda and her 2 daughters with a poisonous birthday cake. Now, I don't think that I'm trying to discredit any of the hauntings that are occurring there to this very day. The house has layers and layers of history, just like we mentioned in our past episode about Hollywood, having layers and layers of history here. Just like the David Oman house from our first episode, David Oman's house was built over an Indian burial ground, and there's also claims that the Myrtles Plantation was built over one itself. That's not true. It was actually built next to the location of an Indian burial ground that belonged to the Tunica tribe, a tribe of Native Americans that resided alongside the Mississippi River. Then you also have the location of the Battle of Port Hudson just 12 miles away. So it's kind of like in this trifecta of all the stuff that occurred. And like we mentioned in episode 1 with David Oman's house, his house was actually built over an Indian burial ground, and it was just several yards away from where the Battle of the Tongva tribe with the California settlers occurred in the 1800s. Not to mention, he is also located just across the street from the location of where the Sharon Tate murders occurred. And his house is also built over a geometric field that is attracting all this energy. And like the Myrtles Plantation, it's attracting all this energy. You have the site of the Civil War, and you also have this Indian burial ground not too far away, along with all the death that occurred due to the yellow fever. Oops. Now my writer's here, guys. Before I go, I will leave you with this note before we come back with our post-mortem, and it's what I mentioned before. Legends have some sort of an important meaning or symbolism for the culture in which it originates. Back then, everyone's culture was that of survival. To survive the yellow fever, to survive the Civil War, and for the slaves that were working on these plantations to survive slavery. You could find out more about David Weishart's research and everything that he brought up from the public records of St. Francisville at www.americanhauntingsinc.com/myrtles. All right, guys, I got my Serenite Stone, my St. Benedict medal, and some libations because, yes, it is the South. We drink and we need some liquid courage here. All right, guys, wish me luck, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. All right, guys, we're back. We survived the night. I am sitting next to my NOLA sister from another Mista, my Thunder buddy, my NOLA girl, my friend, Catherine Verona. Catherine, you want to say hi? Introduce yourself?
Hello, Hollyweird Paranormal fans and listeners. I'm Catherine Verona. I'm fortunate to know this lovely woman and be friends with her.
Aw, fortunate to know you, girl. I met Catherine, when was it, like 10 years ago, 9 years ago in Los Angeles. We didn't even meet here. We just
it was 2010.
Yeah, it was 2010. I was working, like I mentioned before, in my fabulous and very entertaining job of retail at Aveda in Century City. And you overheard me mentioning to a customer that I was from New Orleans. Your NOLA radar receptors went up. And ever since then, we have been really good friends. It's like if you're from the city and you hear that someone else is from the city and you're out of the state or whatever.
It's magnetic.
It is very magnetic. Like you guys are destined to be together for life.
Yes.
Is a NOLA thing.
And your birthday was right after I met you.
Yes.
It was like the next week. So you invited me to your birthday party. And I was
like,
I have to go hang out with this girl.
And ever since then, we've had many adventures together.
And your birthday here every summer at home.
Yes.
And this year was interesting.
It was actually a perfect setup because you are skeptic. You don't believe in this stuff. And I was like, it's all good. Come on. Bryce number 2. If it was Bryce would have been like, I'm sleeping in the car, or I'll be taking the car to a nearby church and just sleeping right there. But it was kind of funny when we were on the way over there and you were like, so, how haunted is this place?
Yeah, I had no idea any of the stories.
I said, you'll soon find out.
The folklore.
The folklore. So yes, guys, speaking about the legends and the folklores. Oh, and this is just an FYI. Sorry if you guys hear a lot of this. It's because I left the stands in LA. They weigh a lot. And if I were to have packed them in my bag, they would have caused my baggage to really go over, the 50-pound mark. So I was like, Unfortunately, my bag barely made it past 45 pounds because I was bringing home a lot of gifts to my family members. So what we're going to talk about real quickly is the location, our room, the mystery tour that we took later on that evening, having spirits with the spirits. So we got a little tipsy because the people that we encountered were from different parts of Louisiana and they were there to party with the spirits. And of course, the night and the morning and what happened to my contacts. For those of you who have tuned in to our story on Instagram, something happened to my contacts that none of us can explain. We'll go into that soon. So before we continue with our post-mortem, we can quickly tackle what is fact and fiction. As you guys heard in the beginning, our homegirl Bryce shared with us one of the versions of the legend and lures of Chloe, the Woodruffs, and the Winters. And if you follow us on Instagram, you would have seen a clip on our story of me standing with the Myrtle staff member and docent, Bo Tressler. He's currently a graduate student majoring in history at Southeastern Louisiana University, and he was able to clear up a lot of the legends and lores that surround myrtles while I chatted with him during our check-in. And he mentions that researching on the history of the land and the history of the property is key. And the reason why a lot of these stories circulated like wildfire, no pun intended, we'll get into that soon, was due to Francis Kerman's critically unacclaimed book, Myrtles Plantation, The True Story of America's Most Haunted House, which we thought that the title belonged to, the Sally House, the Amityville House, and the Exorcist House. So Bo goes on to say that Frances Kerman and her family lived on the property from 1980 to 1992, and she was a bit batshit crazy, and she was the reason behind all the crazy stories. Just a little background before we hit the night of. Currently, the plantation is owned by John and Tita Moss. John and Tita do not believe in calling the entities ghosts. They believe that the spirits are guardian angels. In another interview that John gives to a local news station, he explains that their property is no different from any other plantation. It's going to have its own energy. Neighbors even told them that they would know in 90 days if the spirits like you or not. And 90 days later, they said that they had a few unexplained events, but nothing that would make them run out screaming. So I guess the spirits ended up liking them. But I do believe that they do have some guardian angels. That's a fact, because recently the plantation had been victim to not one, but 2 fires in 2014 and 2017. The first fire was started by a cigarette butt. It just created this mass fire, and that was less than 8 feet away from the main house, and it connected to a breezeway. And miraculously, it did not reach the main house, and the St. Francisville Fire Department told them that it should have engulfed the whole entire property. So they truly had some sort of unseen forces helping them. And in 2017, another fire occurred, and it burned down the restaurant and bar, which was a bummer for us. But
we made it work.
We'll go into that soon. And that was due to a cheap iPhone charger that was left in an old electrical socket. So they are currently building an entirely new restaurant and bar with a larger room that will be for special events like work events, rehearsal dinners, or I think even maybe weddings could be held there. They're also building additional hotel rooms. And I think they even have plans to build more cabins, which is crazy. But if you're planning on touring or traveling to Louisiana to experience the Myrtles, I say go during the middle of the week. The summers are pretty crazy. You do have to plan 3 to 4 months in advance. October, you have to plan 2 to 3 years in advance. October is insane. We're going to go into the location, what we felt, what we thought of it. It's a beautiful location. What did you think?
It's very old. The furniture was really cool. The bed was very high.
I need to post that picture. I forgot to post it. You needed to take like a set of stairs.
It needs its own footstool, double footstool thing to step up onto it.
You get to the room and it's like you feel like you're a little dizzy. You're like, what's going on? I'm dipping up and going down. Yeah, it's like a fun house. Like you're going up and down. And then I even did like a water bottle test where I placed the water bottle on the floor and it just rolled down the room. So if someone or other people have claimed, well, I get dizzy, it just feels like, the room is like literally shaking beneath me. It's actually because the house is just completely unleveled. It's just a very old house. Like every other house in Louisiana, it's just needs to be leveled. That's just in my opinion. So
we live in the swamp.
There you go. We live in the swamp, or I used to live in the swamp. Now we can tackle the room. So we were staying in the William Winters room, and each room has a binder to give you a brief history of the house, the property, and of course, each binder is different in each room because it gives you the story of that room in particular. And our staff member, Docent Beau, was so nice to explain to us the stories of the going-ons and happenings of that room.
Yes.
And there's this one point where he's telling us about the little girl ghost. It was Kate Winters. She's one of the ghosts and entities that haunts the room. She's supposed to be the sweet little girl ghost who died of yellow fever. She was William Winters' daughter. And she died in that room. And a lot of people have claimed to have seen her and heard her in that room. She's known to jump on the bed. She's known to play in the closet. You can hear her giggling or singing. You can hear her pitter-patter around the room, play with your change, stack your change on the dresser or the mantle above the fireplace. And after Beau had explained the story, you were like, oh my God, I just feel a rush of cold air down my arm.
Yeah.
And then I debunked it by saying, well, the AC just turned on and you're underneath the bed.
I get cold really easily, so I wasn't surprised.
I was like, for a skeptic, Catherine, you're feeling a lot of things. But as a green investigator, I was like, wait, where's this coming from? I just felt like the air too, and I looked up. There's a vent right above the bed. So the AC turned on, and that's why you felt that rush of cold air by your arm.
Yep.
Another story, too, that kind of freaked me out, I was like, great, was the fact that I think it was Sterling is the guy that goes into each room on that level and tucks all the patrons in their bed. So that was weird. Yeah, that was weird. I was like, oh, I'm going to see this old man tucking in Catherine in bed.
Ugh. And I went up there by myself.
Oh, I remember.
Because I don't believe in ghosts.
So apparently, like, yeah, there's a story, or claims that guests have felt, someone tucking them in, or they'll wake up and have the covers all the way up to their chin. That was another one of the stories. And then another story too was, I think it was Sarah Williams or Sarah Sterling, when she grew old and was still living on the property. I think she died of old age. She died in that room too. And some people say, yeah, you can, definitely see the spirit of Sarah in this room. Like, great, there's not 2, there's 3. So it's just a fun house in here. But a lot of people kept on reassuring, but it's okay. Kate is really sweet. She's really nice. I'm like, that's great.
Friendly ghost.
She's Casper all of a sudden. Okay, so we missed the history tour. So when yeah, we did. Someone got hungry. No, I'm glad we stopped. We stopped on the way to St. Francisville to get some food because we were a little hungry. If you do book a room at the Myrtles Plantation.
I didn't realize that was my fault. Damn it.
It's okay, because I wanted to do the mystery tour more than anything.
Yes.
I think I did my own.
We totally got the mystery
that
side
was
of
what
it.
I wanted the most. But like I was saying before, if you book a room, what comes along with that room is you get a free country breakfast. That is between the hours of 7 and 9. And you also...
What the hell?
I know. Especially if you're drinking. And then you also get a complimentary history tour, and it's a day tour. And one of the docents pretty much walk you throughout the property and the main part of the house, and just gives you a broad background of the history of the land and the property and the families that lived there prior. Now, the mystery tour is completely different.
It's very dark.
It's very dark.
In the rooms inside.
Yes. So what they do, this is what happens. So the mystery tour is completely separate. And you can, I highly recommend making your reservations online, because during the summer they got really packed. Like, we had 30 people in this tour. It was a big tour group. So they had, I think, 3 slots. They had a time slot at 6, 7, and 8. And I really wanted to do the 8 o'clock one, because that's when it get really dark. But they were sold out. So we got the 7 o'clock. So we had the opportunity to be given a guide of the mystery tour through Sarah. And if you have been following us on Instagram, you may have seen this picture of me and this older woman with red hair dressed in her antebellum wear. Her name was Sarah, and she's one of the most popular docents. You may have seen her in a lot of documentaries and travel shows, and I think she was even on the Ghost Adventure shows too, that they interview her, because she's one of the oldest working staff members and docents there. She does a really great job with the tour groups, and
she's very sweet.
She is the sweetest person, and I think the spirits know that. She's very tight with them. She's really knowledgeable. But she
had some very snazzy long blue nails.
Oh,
I could tell they were her real nails.
I was looking at her nails too.
Yeah, her nails definitely stood out to me. And just against that antebellum like costume, I just kept looking at that and noticing it and thinking how bizarre.
I remember you just kept on looking at her nails, and you're like, her nails, look at her nails. You're like, what color are those nails? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm just fixated on the story. So we did the mystery tour, and here's what happened. So if you've seen the pictures on our Instagram, you pretty much have a good idea. So this tour was a pretty packed tour, and it just takes you through the main portions of the house. You go through, I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rooms. So that takes you through the main parlor, which is the staircase that has the haunted mirror. And real quickly, what I'm going to do right now is just play the insert right here of the mirror.
Story about our haunted mirror. Now, this is supposed to be one of the most haunted pieces of furniture that exists. Of course, you've seen it on TV probably many times. Now, back in the 1700s and 1800s, of course, they had no funeral homes. They had to wake a body in the house. It wasn't until the mid-1800s they actually did have a funeral home. So their belief was, when someone died, you must immediately go to every mirror in the house and cover it with a black cloth. If you failed to cover the mirror, they thought the spirit could leave the body, go into the mirror, and then, of course, it's trapped. It is not coming out. And I think that's what happened to the mirror. At some point in time, somebody forgot to cover this mirror. Now, the frame of the mirror is original to the house. This glass is not. This glass has been resilvered probably 10 or 11 times. And every time they have resilvered it, every image that you see here will return to the mirror. There's a lady's face. She's facing the courtyard. It's a profile, actually, so you can see here's her neck, there's her chin, her mouth, her nose, and here's her eye. We think she has a hat on, because you can see the feathers here from the hat. Now, the streaks in the mirror, some people say that is tears. Other people believe it is blood, because sometimes when you photograph the mirror, those streaks will appear red in your photograph. So a lot of people say it's blood, it is not tears. Now, on this side of the mirror, you see a child's handprint, and you see the little footprint right here. Aww. And every time they resilver the mirror, those images will return to the mirror in exactly the same place. Sometimes when you photograph the mirror, you see very odd things in your photograph that you really are not seeing in this mirror. Sometimes you'll see images on the staircase. The house was used as a Confederate hospital at one time during the Civil War. So lots of soldiers died in the house. And we've seen soldiers lined up on the staircase. We've seen the children sitting on the stairs with their little hands and feet through the spindles. We have a picture in the gift shop. If you have been in the gift shop and looked at the monitor, there's a lady coming down the staircase in a red ball gown. And we have a picture of Chloe coming down the stairs carrying a baby. So y'all please take pictures. You never know what you might see.
So there's the story of the haunted mirror, guys. Isn't that insane? So she goes ahead and takes us to the women's parlor. And it's the room where they, I think during Halloween, they put the actress portraying Chloe or Cleo in that room to come in with the candle and blow it out in a dramatic way. So that's when she mentioned to us that you need to like book years in advance for that, because a lot of people like to spend the night during October and participate during that special Halloween tour.
Wait, that crazy story about the actress that was going in there and like the screen thing like fell over.
Oh, that's right.
Completely.
Good call. That's
I have
true.
a terrible memory, but I remember that that little snippet.
And there was a story of the actress who was dressed as Chloe and was supposed to perform that night of Halloween. Something happened where she was supposed to stand behind this like kind of like this gold and lucite room divider, and the divider out of nowhere kind of like tilts and falls on her. And she supposedly had seen the spirit of Chloe herself dressed in white. So there are these visions and these sightings of a young woman who's they claim to be Chloe the slave girl, or it could be Cleo the voodoo priestess who was brought in to save Kate Winters. When we cut through the living room, now this is where it gets a little crazy, because we kind of like stop and she gives out more stories and she shares a lot of like personal accounts. But you're standing next to me. I was like standing next to the mirror and I was kind of looking over to you and I'm like, did you wave your arm up and down?
Yeah, I remember that.
And you were leaning just against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
I kept on feeling it felt like this. I'm going to do it to you. Like it just felt like a whoosh of air,
mm-hmm.
like constantly going past me. It felt like someone was walking past me, or like kind of like.
It was me.
That was you? Okay.
No, I'm messing with you.
No, that wasn't you. Crap. But that's why I kept on looking. I was like, oh, were you?
You asked me.
Yeah.
Like, were you just waving your arm in the air? And I was like, no.
It felt like, you know, when someone like rushes past you and you just feel that gust of air. It felt like someone was rushing past me and I could just feel this gust of air just breezing by my right arm. And then we go into the dining room, and it's the room where young Cornelia is roaming around, and she likes to mess with the men. And she's been known to untie people's shoes, tug on their shirts. Ladies tug on your pants or your skirt or your purse straps. And she's usually floating through the chandelier. We transition into the women's parlor.
Ladies' parlor.
The ladies' parlor. So this is where the ladies did ladies' things back then. And when I mean lady things, I mean drink tea, read poetry, and knit. Very exciting.
That's what I have to say about that.
So this is where the tour gets extremely interesting. So where were you standing? Were you in front of me or on the right side?
I was in front of you.
So Catherine was in front of me, and it's kind of like this little breezeway between the dining room and the ladies' parlor. And there's this gentleman and his girlfriend. They were standing next to me. The gentleman was on my left. Our backs, just the two of us, it's our backs facing the dining room. And we're listening to Sarah's story. And out of nowhere, he whips towards the left. He just snaps towards the left. And he's like, what the? And then he looks at me with disbelief. And then he looks at his girlfriend. His girlfriend's like, what happened? He's like, I just felt something tug the back of my shirt. And I turn around. He's like, did you do that? I'm like, why would I tug the back of your shirt?
Stranger.
And he's just like, did you see anything? And I told him, no, I was just listening to Sarah, but something really spooked him. And what was really funny is like, he's this tall, muscle bound man. Like he looked like a bodybuilder.
He had a nice body.
Yeah, let's be honest. He had a really nice body. Like homeboy looked good.
Good legs.
I know.
I always look at the legs.
You look at the calves?
I love this time of year because it's so damn hot here.
So you like
see
to
the
see
men's
the men,
legs
see the men's legs in their shorts or their cargo shorts. You're like, those are some good calves, some
it's
good
really
glutes.
Interesting if they shave their legs.
Oh yeah, you could tell he manscapes.
Or the opposite, where it's like forest.
Yeah. We could see why Cornelia was all about him. I was like, Cornelia has this thing with men because she seems to be standing around these guys a lot, tugging on their shirts. Oh, that was another thing too. Sarah mentions that the gentleman parlor and the ladies parlor are the two rooms that have a lot of energy. That's where psychics claim that that's the vortex. That's where, you know, they caught a full body apparition on Ghost Adventures. That was the apparition of Chloe or Cleo. And it's just a lot of weird juju that goes in and out of the rooms. Like if you take pictures in these rooms, you're going to capture something. And before we go into the detail of the study room, if you've seen the Instagram post that I made the other day or 2 days ago, I took 2 pictures of a mirror that was in that room. And in the beginning, I thought, crap, I really didn't capture anything. But I was laying in bed one night and something told me, like, what are these gray, pale figures in the mirror? And I zoomed in and I was like, holy shit, that looks like a little girl in period wear and pixie tails. And she's like looking at my camera and smirking. But it's so funny because she's standing right behind this guy like, you dare me to do it? Because when she tugged that guy's shirt, I kind of chuckled just the way he just reacted. He was such a, like, you could tell he was a teddy bear. Like he looked tough, but he was really scared. He was spooked.
I was surprised by that.
Me too. So the second picture that I caught too, and I took these back to back. The second one, it looks like a little boy, or it looks like a slave girl, like a person from that time period that could be best described close to like Chloe's description or Cleo's description, but it just didn't look right. They did not belong to the tour group at all. So we head into I guess it was like the game room or the library, and we really didn't have the feels there. Nothing happened there. They just apparently have a tea set that Mark Twain used to drink tea out of one afternoon, and that was it. But nothing.
That's all?
That was it.
He drank out of it once?
He drank out of it once, and it's been sitting there ever since.
I made that up.
We made that up for the paper. So that was our mystery tour, but that was like the craziest things that we caught on camera was the images on the mirror, the man who claimed to have his shirt tugged, and the gush of air that just like whizzed by my right arm when we were in that main room. So we could go into the company.
Not me.
It was already my birthday. It was like midnight, and we had met these people sitting on the veranda. They were staying at the main house in the cabins, and it was like the sorority of women, and there were 2 that were staying with their beaux in the caretakers' cabins, and they were from where? Homa. They're from Homa. You could tell in their accents they're from the swamp. They're from country, and it was really fun because we were all there to have a good time, and they were celebrating a belated birthday, and I mentioned, oh, it's my birthday, and we all ended up drinking and just shooting the shit, and we ended up like blowing out candles on a birthday cake, and then it kind of gets a little creepy because they ended up talking about stuff that was going on in their cabin, like weird stuff going on in their cabin.
Well, they were pretty drunk.
They were, some of them were.
I mean, yeah.
Some of them, not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
No, I'm sorry, they weren't.
The two girls, one of their boyfriends, they were pretty drunk because at one point the grounds manager comes out and he has to tell him to quiet down, that people were sleeping. They were complaining because he was getting really, really loud. But one of the girls, she kept on telling me too that she just experiences a lot of unexplained things. She's sensitive, that all these ghosts are attracted to her. And her boyfriend came pretty much prepared for this overnight because they had a stop motion camera set up in their room. So if there was any motion, it would take a picture of whatever was in the room. And the thing that was going on in their room, what they were explaining is that they felt like they were being watched. And one of them at one point goes to use the bathroom, comes back, and she was like, who threw the hand towels on the floor?
Every time they went back into their cabin, they came back. And
they came back.
Did you move the towel? Did you move the towel? No, I didn't move it. No, I put the towel here. No, I put the towel over the shower door, and then I left one on the ground because I dried my hands and threw it on the ground. Yes. Like a man.
That was true. At least he was honest. But there was like 3 towels that were misplaced. One of them was debunked because one of the guys admitted, yeah, I threw it on the floor. But there's one towel that was in the hallway and one that was like above like the shower door, and they don't know how it got there, and they don't know how
intoxication.
But what about the one in the hallway?
She placed it there, and then homeboy that was getting twisted off of a watermelon beer. Yeah. So he came back and he said, there's no towel on the floor. And then they go look, and I think they were like, yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It was there. But there was something else that happened too. There was a towel that ended up in the middle of the hallway, and no one could explain that one. Maybe it could be due to intoxication, maybe not. And then they freaked out because there was like a partial handprint on the mirror.
Oh yeah.
And it was like the ring finger and the pinky finger, and no one could explain like where that came from. And we took a picture of it. I think I put it on the story. I want to see if I still have it in my phone, but they said that they didn't touch the mirror and they don't know where it came from, but it looked like a small handprint, like of a child, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like
I didn't look at it. The bathroom was so small in there, and everyone was crowding in there like, look.
FYI,
so like, okay.
The bathrooms in this place are really tiny. Yeah, if you're very claustrophobic, I wouldn't recommend spending the night. So the craziest thing is when I contacted the place while making my reservations, when I contacted the plantation, I remember one of the women that picked up the phone mentioned, they are very active between the hours of 12 and 3. And then I remember later on that evening after the tour, Sarah mentioned that they're very active right now because of the construction of the new bar and restaurant, that they're very confused. They're like, what the fuck is going on? And they're very active. So after Catherine goes upstairs, I continue to drink rum chata with Vicky. There's this woman who was sitting in the veranda with us. She was a sweetheart. And
she brought her whole ice chest out from her cabin.
She brought her bar from her cabin. And she was drinking her rum chata, her rosé. I ended up doing the live stream on Instagram. And I was walking with our friends from Homa, because one of the girls' boyfriend brought his own like equipment. And then I circled around the property. I did this by myself in the dark. And I wasn't afraid at all.
You're crazy.
As I got to the middle portion of it, I ran into the couple again. And if you have seen on our Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I posted a very grainy video. I'm sorry for the quality of that video, but they captured something that was very credible and unexplainable. They were walking towards their cabin and they noticed this pitch black figure. It looked like a humanoid. It looked like a height of a child. And the gentleman pulls out his phone and he starts recording. And it's so weird because this black figure looks directly at the camera at his phone. Like he notices that homeboy's recording it and he just zips away. And you could just clearly see it. And I don't know if you look closely into the video, but you see this like black humanoid shadow figure kind of look up to his camera and it just zips away. And it freaked all of us out. And they were so freaked out because they had to sleep in that room. But other than that, that was pretty much the end of all the spooks that were occurring that happened around 2:30, 3 a.m. And I think by that time we were like, we were done. So the night and the next morning, what happened? Did you experience anything at night while you were sleeping?
I just didn't sleep well. Oh, I was freezing cold. I was so cold, remember?
Yeah, because I purposely put the AC a little high. I get very warm when I'm drunk. But yeah, I just cannot sleep well when I am drunk. I need like cold air blasting on me because I get the drunk sweats. And
I was the opposite. Like I was shivering. I had the extra blanket on top of me, whereas you just had the sheet. So
that too, and the vent was above,
right above the bed.
Yeah, it was right above our heads. It was like right there. So we were being blasted all that cold air. But at one point, I did wake up because as we were laying down, at one point I remember you saying that you heard what sounded like music.
Oh yeah,
was being played. Like, was it piano or?
No, it just sounded like jazz or something from outside. I couldn't make it out at all, but there was the sound of the AC in the room, but this was like a really faint, dull sound, like it was far away.
Oh wow! And I couldn't hear it. That's so funny. You could. I couldn't hear it. But right when you said it too, it sounded like someone was shuffling on the floor on the foot of our bed. Like
creaks.
Yeah, it was like a lot of creaks. But it just sounded like shuffling. And at one point I sat up and I snapped my fingers. I was like, stop. We need to sleep. We really need to sleep. But that room got really creepy at night. Like it was just pitch black. And the only source of light was just the two windows. And that was it.
I remember you laid down, you were like, why is that window so blurry? It's so blurry.
It looks so blurry. So we have this window that faces the back.
Drunk goggles.
But yeah, it could be drunk goggles. So we barely got up for our complimentary breakfast. And we staggered.
Butter my biscuit.
Butter on my biscuits. They had a really nice breakfast. It was country biscuits, grits, and some eggs with some oatmeal and cereal, coffee and water. And it was so bogus because they set this breakfast from 7 to 9. And a lot of us staggered. All of the people that stayed there the night before staggered in that morning.
Yeah.
It was too early.
I was like, Tammy, just bring me something back.
I was like, I will. And then I asked the woman, can I bring food up to the room? And they were like, no, $200 a night. Can I please bring a biscuit to my friend? We ate and we went back up to nap for an extra hour and 45 minutes because we had to be out by 11. So we fell asleep.
That was great.
We fell asleep. I set my alarm for, I want to say it was for 10:30. And this is where I mean, I cannot explain this. I don't know, maybe if there was a little girl that was maybe downstairs outside for one of the tours, but it sounded like a little girl was humming at one point when I got up. Like it just sounded like she was going like that. And then I heard laughter. And
maybe she was singing you happy birthday in Ghost.
How is that? Would that?
You just had the longest. I'm sorry.
Would that be Ghost? Happy birthday.
Pause.
Probably. She's a sweet girl.
But it was the morning of your birthday, right?
It was the morning of my birthday. Yeah, maybe she was. But real quickly, no, we didn't have any covers up to our chins. We weren't tucked in. We didn't see anything. I didn't feel anything. I just only heard what sounded like a little girl singing and just that little brief laughter. And then I get up to go do my business in the bathroom, wash my hands, and I'm ready to put on my contacts. And then I notice my contacts are missing. Happy birthday to me. Maybe that's why she was like
empty
singing.
Case.
Yeah, it was an empty case. If you guys saw the video on Instagram on the story, I was like, I have to get, I don't, how do I explain this? Like, I need to talk to you guys. This is what happened. I go up to the bathroom and
I wasn't getting out of bed.
You were.
I just wanted to go back to sleep.
I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's just the way that the contact case was laid out with the lids. It just looked so like neatly put together. Maybe this little girl wasn't sweet after all. Maybe she was like, I think that she really needs to change these contacts out. So I'm gonna do her a favor and dump them out. I could just like vision her in my head, like singing as she's dumping my contacts down the drain. Just like cleaning up the container. Like, you're welcome. Happy birthday.
Do you think maybe she needed them?
A 4-year-old, I don't think so.
Oh, she's 4. Never mind. Well, maybe she was like stealing them for someone else.
Oh, probably for her grandfather so he could see. I don't know. But it was funny because I walked out and your head just shut up like, what happened? And you're fine. You had your contacts. I didn't have mine. But you had yours.
Yes. And what's odd is I never take my contacts out on the side of my bed, like from where I sleep. Mm-hmm. But that night I did. So I had like my little travel size solution and my case on the bedside table.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like still freaking out. I go and I look on the mantle because I placed a little like trigger objects. Because according to the stories, if you leave change on the dresser or if you leave change on the mantle above the fireplace, the little girl's supposed to come in and stack the coins one on top of the other. And that didn't happen. So So the covers being pulled up to our chins, us being tucked in, that didn't happen. We didn't see anything. We didn't notice that of the change, but that was just weird with the contacts. I was like going into the other rooms talking to the other gentlemen, and they were like, did you check other places like underneath the cushions of the chair? I bet you anything that they're there.
They said that they move things around. Yeah,
these little entities, they love to grab your stuff and move it around the room. They think it's cute, but it's really annoying. Thank God I had my glasses, but that was the only thing that freaked me out. It was a big surprise, a bit of a shitty surprise, but it ended up happening.
I'm glad it was you and not me.
Thank you.
And I had brought my glasses as a backup.
I know, I always bring my glasses as a backup. Thank God.
Sometimes I go on trips and I don't have my glasses with me, which is like,
you're like, fuck.
I'm totally fucked if something happens to my contact, like one flies out of my eye or rips or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, we ended up checking out, guys, and we hit the road. I said thank you to the energies. Hopefully we see them again. And hopefully by next summer, we bring Bryce with us. We'll take Bryce. I'm ready to do a Patreon GoFundMe to send Bryce to New Orleans with me. Because to see that man, for one thing, party in the quarter.
Oh, God.
To put a daiquiri in his hand. To see him go through a haunted mystery tour throughout Myrtles. Hell, even a haunted tunnel tour. That would be gold right there. So
he can have my spot.
He can definitely do your spot. He's still kind of a skeptic, but he's a bit of a scaredy cat. I love how like people say, oh, I'm a skeptic, I don't believe in this stuff. And then they become the biggest scaredy cat. You're like, what is that? What did I hear? What was that? Oh, that was the AC. Okay. What happened? Who died in this room and why? So that concludes our story, our post-mortem of the Myrtles Plantation. Thank you so much for taking this little tour with me during my little birthday vacay. I wanted to do something special for you guys. I know that our podcast is Hollywood based, but the weirdness can surpass beyond the California state lines and out to other areas, and definitely to the Gulf Coast for sure.
Well, in New Orleans, It's a different beast here.
Yeah.
We're a world of our own.
Exactly. I agree.
And the history and depth of legends and the religions and traditions and rituals of the city. It's just like incredible. There's no place like it.
There is no place like it.
It's interesting because I'll meet people that have traveled here from all over, and they'll say there's a heaviness about the city.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Or a darkness and heaviness.
Wow, I never heard that. You know, and I mentioned this in the Axemen episode. Like every time I hear someone talk about New Orleans, they always talk about the damn French Quarter.
Bourbon Street.
Bourbon
Ew.
Street. We get it. Look, we're originally,
Horrible.
but there are other people I know that come here and they really respect the city. They appreciate the history. They appreciate what's beyond Bourbon Street, what's beyond the French Quarter. And I've been posting a few of those images on our Instagram because to me that's New Orleans. That's our episode. That's our post-mortem. We kind of went on a bit of a New Orleans rant, but when you are from the city and you love the city, you know,
It's a big part of your heart and soul.
it is. You can take the girl out of NOLA, but you cannot take the NOLA out of the girl. That's for sure.
True that, Tammy. That's
Yeah.
why I found you all
Yeah.
the way in LA.
504 Eva.
Hell yes.
That's our area code. All right, guys. Till next time. And don't forget to follow us too on our social media. Follow us at HWP Podcast on Twitter. And we're also on Facebook and Instagram at Hollyweird Paranormal. And if you want to email us, say hello, say what's up, share a story of your own, email us at hollyweirdparanormal@gmail.com.
Thank you for having me, Tammy.
You're very
and I
welcome.
was so excited and happy to spend your birthday with you at the Myrtles. It was definitely an experience. And I feel honored that you chose me to go with you.
Well,
A
I'm honored
skeptic.
to have you as my friend. My BFF.
Aw,
Love you, girl.
I love you. Let's bear hug.
I love you more than cafe au lait and beignets.
Okay, hey listeners. This was cool. I've never done a podcast, so that's all I gotta say.
Aw.
Y'all enjoy. I know y'all really y'all.
I
Now
love
you can
it.
hear the y'all.
I still say y'all, and I sometimes
say
say
y'all?
dat. Hand me that dare.
Yes. What that?
What dat? Where you at?
Yes, I know Tammy has a lot of fans and followers that adore this podcast and really enjoy listening to it and following your really funny Instagram posts that make me laugh. So y'all are awesome too.
Aw. They are. They're very awesome. And if you do not think that you're awesome, then email us at hollyweirdparanormal@gmail.com and we'll give you 3 reasons why you're so freaking awesome. We will do that. All right.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't it cool? We will.
I'm going to try it.
We'll try it.
Okay.
All right. All right. Much love, guys. And
Peace.
till next time, peace. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Music by our favorite New Orleans brass band, the Kingfold Brass Band. We also wanted to give a very special shout out and thank you to our spiritual bays of the week, and they are the staff members at the Myrtles Plantation. They do such an amazing job, and we hope that you guys one day visit the plantation. And I hope one day I bring Bryce. Also, got to give a very special shout out to Vicky from Harvey, Louisiana, who came and supplied us with rum chata. Want to stay Hollyweird with us? You can finally catch our episodes on Spotify. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Android, Castbox, Player FM, SoundCloud, and Blueberry.com. If you like Hollyweird Paranormal, please rate us on Apple Podcasts and leave us a little review. We really do appreciate it, and it helps us indie podcasters out so much. All right, guys, don't forget to always stay Hollyweird.